a lot deeper this week. The big news out of the week was Najai Hines coming home, staying home. Let's vibe. Welcome into the greatest and latest episode of Pirate Vibes. I'm, of course, joined by Patrick Madden. Patrick, how are you?
I'm okay, Brian.
You should be more than okay today. Like we got great. Like I'm going to say for the first time in a while, Seton Hall got the best news out of the whole conference. Right? UConn celebrating the TBT win, while we're celebrating a big time recruit coming to town.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, actually, we should probably start with the fact that you actually were down where Peach Jam was taking place and happened in the time you were able to peek in there to see Hines in action. So I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
Impressions of seeing him in the flesh were.
For those that don't know this, I coach a local AAU team. It's not an EYBL. It's not a circuit team at all. It's a local team. It's in my county. And we went to Gym Rats, which was the tournament down the road. Obviously, Augusta is the center of recruiting during this live period at this time of the year. You see all the videos with like LeBron with his sons and all that coming to town over the years. So me and my team, it was in between games. We decided, hey, we're going to check out Peach Jam, the next level. And first of all, if you ever get a chance to go to Peach Jam in North Augusta, it is awesome. It is awesome for anyone that loves the game of basketball, but also for guys like me and you that are kind of nerdy about college basketball. We're seeing the next generation coming up and coming into, and you see them in the flesh, and it's not, you get to see them all at once instead of, you're going to go see one game here, one game there if you go through the high school season. But when it comes to Najai Hines, his presence, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I didn't know a lot about him, right? First of all, high school basketball for me, especially as a Seton Hall guy, it didn't seem like we were recruiting any. So why did we pay attention to this, right? But you walk in the gym and you go, who is that? He just is a grown man and against high school boys. Like the body just sticks out so quickly, even though you're in this gym filled of elite EYBL players, the top high school players in the country. And your eyes go right to him because you're like, that's a big dude for an 18-year-old guy. Obviously 6'10", and do you know his weight? Because I've read a couple of different reports, and obviously as a kid, it's
nobody's going to be able to tell you that obviously when he gets on campus, they'll weigh him. So they'll have some idea. And, there were people who know a little bit about high school basketball up here who said, yeah, he's a big dude. But of course, then you get into, a program like Seton Hall. Big time programs are going to be able to address that issue. They'll put him on some type of diet. He'll obviously be hitting the weight room pretty regularly. He'll have managers and training staff who will be, making sure that they, weigh him on a regular basis. And if, Holloway thinks he needs to lose 10 or 15 pounds before the first week of November, as long as he's committed to it, he will lose the weight. We've talked a little bit about a guy who sort of on the opposite end of the scale, who Holloway was working with when he first got here, named Tyree Samuel, guy who was 6'10", but probably weighed all of 210 pounds when he got to Seton Hall. And, the first couple of seasons there at Seton Hall, Kevin Willard was satisfied with what he saw. Samuel was playing more of a stretch 4, stretch 5. But the first thing Holloway said is, you're 6'10". You're supposed to be a center. I want you to play big. I'm going to make you gain 15 or 20 pounds. And Samuel probably up to that point had his best season in college, the year he got to play for Shaheen Holloway, and then he went off and transferred to Florida, as we all know. So I
Yeah.
think you can work the same end with Hines if you're looking at Hines and saying, this kid is 10, 15 pounds overweight. That's something that can be worked with, rather quickly. So if you're saying, you're worried that he's a big dude, I think, look, Miles Powell's another prime example. Miles Powell, when he was a senior in high school, must have been 40 or 50 pounds overweight. And then every time he played his junior and senior season, when you saw him on television, they would always do the before and after look. Here's what Miles Powell looked like when he was a chunky senior in high school, and here's Miles Powell, who looks like he could win a bodybuilding contest because he had put that much effort into getting himself into the best shape he could. And that's why, of course, he got all the accolades he received, second all-time, third all-time leading scorer, the list goes on. So Hines' body right now is something which, if he wants it, he'll get into shape to be ready to play.
Yeah, he's 18 years old, right? He can change his body pretty easily. It's not like me or you, like trying to change our body now. Our metabolism slowed a little bit, it's a little bit down. But he was a big time football recruit. I saw pictures around there that he was at the University of South Carolina. So he's got that big body. First of all, I can't imagine a 6'10" guy on the football field. Like it would be unique to see 6'10" touching 7 feet tall playing on the football field. I know there's been a couple big guys, but
Tony Gonzalez for one.
Yeah, Gronkowski, right? Was 6'8", 6'9".
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if he's got, I mean, that's another thing. You look at the video of Hines, he has great hands.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something which, a lot of guys that height, particularly guys we've seen at Seton Hall, Romaro Gill had hideous hands when he got to Seton Hall. Iko Biago never figured his hands out. He knew how to block shots, but he really couldn't do anything else. So right off the bat, Hines is ahead of some of the centers we've seen in recent history who, performed well at Seton Hall. So he's got great hands.
Yeah, you talk about blocking. You talk about blocking shots. He led the EYBL this past weekend with block shots, 2.8. And actually, Adam Finkelstein from 24/7 said that for a guy that big, he doesn't come across as the super agile. Let's say Clint Cabela, just straight up and down and going to go block it. But he's very smart when he leaves his feet. He doesn't leave his feet just to leave his feet because he's a big guy. I'm gonna before we dive more into this, I'm gonna play the video of his highlights against the Florida Rebels. So there you go, Patrick. I know you weren't there, but there's one game against Florida Rebels. One thing that stood out is I like how he got out in front on that fast break. Typically, big guys, they get caught up pretty quickly. He was able to sprint down, catch the ball, and finish. Another thing Finkelstein said, that he rolls well for his size in the pick and roll game. And all I can imagine when I read that was Bud Clark and him running a pick and roll, and Bud Clark being able to make a decision to finish or hit the roller or pull up a little bit. And another thing was the deep seals on offense. I think that will work out with the way the rest of the team is designed. So I'm excited. And on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most surprised, how surprised were you that this happened so quickly? Really?
5.
Yeah.
If you recall, Hines had sort of been on the radar in the spring. People who were following the recruiting, Hines' names was mentioned, and people who were tracking the Seton Hall roster construction this spring. The general consensus was sort of 2 parts. One was that, Hines was sort of holding out. There was a lot of discussion, and you'll get to this in the second segment, about he's really a class of 2025 guy.
Yeah.
But he was classifying himself at the time as a 2026 guy because he hadn't received a lot of big time offers. He probably was thinking if he played well in the summer, he'd probably get a lot more eyeballs on him. And obviously a performance like that, one thing which is different than the videos you've seen on YouTube about him when he's playing at Plainfield High, is that here, what you saw in Georgia was, or South Carolina, was he's playing against the elite of the elite down at Peach Jam. When you're playing high school, you're playing to the level of who you're playing against. And some of those videos are, you talk about man against boys.
Yeah.
When you're seeing him and playing against high school kids who might be 6'6", 6'7", obviously a guy of his size, his shot blocking ability is going to look like, 7'2". One of the little short videos on YouTube referred to him as Baby Shaq. Now that's a ridiculous comment. I mean, that's absurd to put, as good as this guy might be, to put him in the same sentence as Shaquille O'Neal is hyperbole at its best. But he does have a lot of attributes which you like to see in a big man. The shot blocking ability reminded me of a guy from 25 years ago. And that's another guy from the Union County, New Jersey area, Samuel Dallenberg.
Yeah.
And we all know that what happened. Dallenberg went to Seton Hall, was one of the best shot blockers in the country. And unfortunately, he left early for the NBA draft. But of course, he ended up having a 10-year career in the NBA based upon his defensive ability. So I think he's got a lot of the same shot blocking attributes as a Dallenberg has. He obviously is a much different body shape. Dallenberg was a long, he was a long and he was a slender guy.
Yeah.
Whereas Hines has bulk, which helps him with something which other people have said and may not have been noticed as much down at the Peach Jam, is that he's a tremendous rebounder. He does
awesome.
He does everything you want at the center position. And to sort of piggyback off something which Holloway has said about big men, to get back to a point I made earlier, he wants centers to be centers.
Yep.
He doesn't want to have a 6'10", 6'11", 7-foot guy who's leaking out to the three-point line. He figures, let the little guys be the shooters and let the big guys do the big guy stuff, playing sort of old school ball. So in that sense, I think that he's got what he wants as the setter from Hines. It's probably the first guy he's had in his 4 years at Seton Hall who sort of fits that definition of what he thinks is the classic center.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited. You hit all the points that I was going to say. Like, his only weakness really is that he has no outside threat. He can't pick and pop, but he can do everything else, which on this team is needed a lot in this current roster. But when we come back, we will talk about the reclass benefit only on Pirate Vibe. Welcome back to Pirate Vibes. I'm your host, Brian Webster, and I'm joined by Patrick Madden. And as always, one of the biggest things, Patrick, you touched on it. He was the class of 2025, then reclass of 2026, and then came back to 2025 with this coming to Seton Hall this year. I think it's a huge benefit for him because if you watch the highlights playing the public schools in New Jersey, he's dominating. He's not being challenged. And being a big guy like that, the game has kind of changed where they are the stretch fives. I think he needs to prove that he can prove it on the next level where the game is a little bit more spaced out than in high school basketball where you see zone defenses and, a guy sitting at the post all the time. So in 2026 on the 24/7 rankings, he was the 36th ranked player. In 2025, he's the 71st ranked player. So obviously that class is a lot deeper, the one that's coming into college basketball right now. I think it's a huge benefit because he can play actual guys. Just like I said, when I walked into the gym at Peach Jam, he was eye-popping. He looked like he was a different age. He didn't look like a high schooler. He looked like a grown man. So I think this is great for him to play Big East basketball. First of all, make some money, right? They're all making money now. Instead of playing high school, you are already supposed to leave in 2025. So it's not like you were finishing up your high school education or anything like that. You come in, you play in the Big East, you play for Shaw, you play at home. I just think it's a win-win for him. And then even if you spend 2 years, if you do great this year and you're an NBA prospect, you're going to the NBA, you got there a little bit faster. Even if you have to take 2 years, guess what? That's what you were going to do anyway. With the reclass, you were going to have to play at least 1 year of college ball. Why not play 2, make money, and get ready for the NBA and challenge yourself instead of those highlight films that I'm not saying it was like, I don't know if you remember the Zion films when Zion was in high school and he's guarding like some 9th grader that's like just hitting puberty. Like go face a grown man, right? Like I just think it's a benefit for him personally. He's betting on himself that in 2 years he'll be NBA ready still, but he's betting that there's a lot of stories that, the longer you're in college, the more they're going to pick apart your game. He's betting on himself that he's going to continue to grow and be ready for the NBA in a couple years. So,
well, we talked a little bit before we started about what some of his options would have been. Would he have gone to one of those basketball academies like Monteverde or IHG, which are down in Florida? Would he have gone there for next year? And he definitely would have faced a better level of competition at one of those places than he faced out in Plainfield. And this is not to sell short New Jersey basketball. Because New Jersey basketball is amongst some of the best high school basketball in the country. But when you go to an IHG or a Monteverde, you're dealing with the best of the best. Kids normally now get recruited. The top recruits are all coming out of those academies. So he would have played a better level of competition. But to your point, now you get a lot more exposure when you're playing in college than you're playing at a place like Monteverde. You get a couple of games on ESPN. Everyone can stream your stuff. But every game he plays next season is going to be on either ESPN or Fox or some big-time he'll get big-time TV exposure so that, if he does show out next season, more people, his name's going to pop up in the places he's going to want to pop up in. Which is, will NBA scouts start to get some interest in what he looks like? I mean, he definitely has the size for it. Of course, we go back to that point you made before the break, which is he, we know a big guy with his skill set, his game would have translated 20, 25, 30 years ago. Does it translate now when the expectations for an NBA center, when you want an NBA center to be able to hit from 15 feet, or you want an NBA center who can maybe guard somebody on the perimeter? Well, his game translate to that, and that's sort of something which, again, he'll figure that stuff out playing some of the college talent he's playing against. Like, for example, a guy like Zuby Ejiofor at St. John's plays a lot of inside out. Rick Pitino at St. John's has emphasized him trying to figure out how to play a front to the basket game, where he can hit a 15, 20, or even 23-foot jump shot. So when you play a guy like Ejiofor or a guy like Owen Friedman at Creighton, who he's probably going to face off against this season, you get to see elite big men who have all of the offensive skills, and you can stack yourself up against those guys. He would not have faced as many guys with that level of skill down at a Monteverdi or an IHG.
Yeah, he's definitely betting on himself, which makes me believe that he is definitely a Shaw guy, right? Like that kind of mentality of I can come in early, well, I can move back to my normal class, I can go prove myself, and I'll still get where I need to be. It just has that mentality that I think Coach Shaw loves, that Jersey toughness, I guess, right?
Or even if you look at his high school tapes, he plays with a confidence that you don't see in a lot of 18-year-old kids. Even 18-year-old kids who play at the high school level, sometimes they play tentatively because they just don't have that level of confidence. You want to call it swag, whatever you want to call it. He's got it. When you watch some of those films that you saw of him playing at Plainfield last season. So in that sense, he's got a mentality that puts him up there. He's not gonna, he's definitely going to be less experienced than guys like Friedman and Elijah Ford and Terrace Reed of Connecticut. He's definitely a few years behind those guys in terms of his age and in terms of experience. But he's not going to sit there and not think that he can't compete with those guys when he walks on the court. He's not going to walk. He's not going to be starstruck because that's who he expects that he should be able to compete with and sometimes beat when he walks on a basketball court.
Yeah, definitely. This definitely adds a lot to the front line too. What's your take on that front line now with that depth? I know a couple episodes I was talking about size doesn't matter. Now you just go get the biggest guy in the gym, right? And then we talk about playing Elijah Fisher at the power forward spot, and when he's naturally a small forward, and now he can slide over. And now my Trash Your Treasure a couple weeks ago might not come to fruition because Fisher is now going to split time a little bit more at the small forward instead of being the power forward.
I don't know if I buy that necessarily. There's a couple of questions here. One is, what does this mean for Godswell, Aaron?
Yeah.
On the one hand, Holloway basically for the last 4.5 months has basically said, "You are my center." Probably told him that the minute that the season ended at the Big East tournament last year. So now the question is, how do you adjust? Because Godswell Aaron is a solid basketball player.
Yeah.
But Hines has more talent than Aaron. I hate to say it. So then the question is, does Aaron keep his starting spot at the center position simply because that's the way Shaheen Holloway works? Yeah. Or does Holloway buy into Hines' talent at the jump and give him the bulk of the minutes at the center position? The question then becomes, do guys like Stefan Payne and Patrick Simenik become power forwards? Yeah. I still think if you're playing the 5 best players on the court, I still think that guys like Fisher and Simpkins and McRae and Clark are 4 of your top 6 guys in the rotation. They're 4 of your 6 best players. And then maybe then the question, Hines and Aaron are, let's say, 5th and 6th for purposes of this discussion. Let's be honest. Payne and Samaric are not your top 6 guys in terms of talent, in terms of skill, in terms of performance. So what you do is you basically have to find spots for them. Is their spot being a backup center? Do you play Payne and Samaric with Aaron and Hines? And that's really what it comes down to. It all depends on matchups. If I need 2 bigs at any given point, I have 4 guys I can use for that position. If the opponent's playing, I still think if you're playing, let's say, Connecticut's lineup, I might prefer to have Fisher at the power forward position because then he can go chase Alex Caravan. If I'm playing St. John's, I might want to have Fisher so he can chase Bryce Hopkins, unless I'm afraid Hopkins is going to go down to the block, and then I might want to see Payne or Aaron at the power forward against Hopkins instead of Hopkins, roaming around. So a lot of it depends on who your matchup is against at any given point, and then which of your guys are you going to plug in to get more minutes on any given night than other guys. But a lot of people are like, well, Fisher shouldn't be playing the power forward position. I think people are sort of missing the matchups and missing the idea that as much as Holloway focuses on defense, you still need to have offense on the court. And again, Fisher and McRae and Simpkins are probably, if you had to rank the offensive players, you got 5 really good offensive players. Hines notwithstanding, you have 5 decent offensive players in Clark, Dar, Simpkins, McRae, and Fisher. So if you need to put points on the board, are you going to put Payne and Samaric and Aaron, who are probably your 6th, 7th, or 8th best offensive players? Are you going to put them when you need points on the board? I think the answer is no. So I think the only thing is, does Holloway just ride Hines from the jump and play him at center on opening night against St. Peter's? Or, does he keep Aaron in that position at the beginning, give Hines a chance to work to his minutes? And then if Hines shows what he showed in high school and at Peach Jam, by the time we get to Big East Conference play, has he taken over the starting position from Aaron?
I think obviously God's will is going to be the starting center on the opening tip, probably against St. Peter's, right? That's my guess. Now, when we're heading into January and you're playing the Big East, is Hines going to take over? He's more talented. You said it earlier. I can't disagree at all. It just is God's will going to lead the team, and maybe Shaw stays loyal to him and he gets his 10, 15 minutes, and is a starter, but Hines gets the majority of the minutes. I don't know how Shaw's going to work. You said a couple episodes ago, and I agree with you 100%. If you're not rolling, Shaw's not going to roll with you. He's going to take you out. So obviously God's will has got to come in. He probably has the jump right now as the leader of most minutes at the 5 spot. But he's got to come in and he's got to hit the ground running from here on out, because now he has competition that is probably more talented. So,
but it will help Aaron out.
It will 100%.
Because it's one thing. This is maybe it is a slight to Payne and Samaric that they're not on Hines' level.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to play a guy, and I guess that's part of what Holloway thought last season. At worst, Emmanuel Okorafor had the skill set to, they talk about iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
One of the things that Holloway was hoping last season was that he would get the type of player that Emmanuel Okorafor was in high school, and that would enable Godswill Aaron Aronay to grow as a player, and have the two of them just get better against each other. But unfortunately, Okorafor had illness when he was practicing in the fall. It took him a while to work itself back up, and then he was never entirely healthy all season, so that Aaron Aronay never really got the opportunity to work fully with Okorafor, and Okorafor never showed everybody exactly what he was. Whereas the hope you have is that if Hines is ready, or is relatively ready on day one, you at least have good competition in practice, and then that translates to what you see on the court when you see either Hines or Aaron Aronay playing the center position.
I agree 100%. All right, Patrick, stay true, stay blue, and vibe on.
Ahoy there! Ahoy, me hearties!